Super Mario Land 2 is a video game. The end. Being the sixth installment in the Super Mario series and the second in the Land sub-series, Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins had quite a bit of work to do if it wanted to surpass its predecessor titled You Know What. Once again, Miyamoto is absent from directing and now is done by two completely different directors, which were also the artists as well. Although it didn't sell as much as the first game, though 11 million units is nothing to be disappointed about, Super Mario Land 2 was still a big success. Is there a more interesting villain? Does it exceed an hour in length? Are there more creative boss fights? Have the controls improved? Will BigAnf stub his toe? Find out in this episode of BigAnf! The plot you can save. I'm playing a Mario game that keeps my progress once I turn it off.
Your Game Boy doesn't work, idiot.
Yeah, it does. See the gameplay? And look, I even have the game. The plot this time is that while Mario was saving Princess Daisy in Sarasaland, a strange
Mario-like figure
cast a spell on the inhabitants of Mario Land to trick them into thinking that the strange
Mario-like figure
is their leader and takes over the entirety of Mario Land. Once again, another save-the-day Mario plot like always, but this one in particular is quite special. More on that later. Super Mario Land 2 contains this hub world structure, most comparable to Super Mario World, which can also be said for the visuals, which look great for a Game Boy game. But unlike Super Mario World, you can choose what zone to take on at any time, while the world map in Mario World was a bit more linear, with some branching paths in each location. Within the hub world, there are 6 coins within the 6 zones, and it's up to Mario to defeat the 6 bosses, possessing the 6 respective coins, and those 6 golden coins fit into these 6 convenient holes on the door, so Mario can defeat the bad guy in his 6th game. Not including spin-offs. Also, there's this spin the wheel minigame which you can play, depending on the amount of currency you collected, thus giving the common collectibles even more of a purpose than before. The more you get, the higher the reward, which either gives you extra lives, a power-up, and if you're unlucky, son of a witch! One thing I can already tell is gonna be better is the fact that there are tons more levels than Super Mario Land 1, and they still manage to look different from one another, which is impressive judging the hardware it was from. Excluding bonus and transition levels, there are 5 tree zone levels, 4 macro zone levels, 4 pumpkin zone levels, 4 Mario zone levels, 3 turtle zone levels, and 2 space zone levels, and not to mention the final level, which is the castle. If you do the math, you should get this answer. And also, there's no arbitrary vehicle levels. 100% pure, uncut platforming. And what do you know? Not only did the levels get better, but also the controls. They still aren't perfect, Mario's movements isn't as tight as I would prefer, but still, it definitely feels more fair than last time. The only thing worth mentioning is the spin jump from Mario World being present, which I didn't find out until the very end of the game. Levels are vastly improved over its predecessor. It's like going from the first Super Mario Bros. Straight to Super Mario World in terms of quality. Levels also have checkpoints, which although I found myself having an easier time, to the point where I beat most of them on my first try, I did find it to be a godsend for levels that had boss fights at the end, especially against the tougher ones. Only 3 power-ups this time, including a brand new one. Obviously, you got your mushroom, which is self-explanatory at this point. It gives you an extra hit point, and in this game, you have up to 3 hits. No, I'm not doing the dun 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 joke. Tropes are tropes, not BigAnf jokes. 1 month later and I still don't know what that meant. And this is coming from the same person who said that the fire flower, which turns Mario into a Native American for some reason, is back to normal since gravity exists now, which is a good thing.
Even the series' non-existent logic is back to normal. Who needs logic? Stars!
And finally, we have the brand new bunny power-up, which is kinda like playing as Princess Toadstool in Mario 2, except the floating times are much longer, making the game much easier than it needs to be. There are also brand new enemies, as well as some old favorites, and most, if not all the new enemies, are exclusive to their respective zone. Oh yeah, there's this one enemy called Jason. Nice reference to Heavy Rain. Jason! The bosses this time are now in the style of the Koopalings from Mario 3, where they take about 3 jumps on the head to kill. Defeating each boss grants you one of the 6 golden coins, which having all 6 of them allows you to take on the final level. As for the boss fights,
they're pretty good.
Tanga?
Now, this might have to do with my my copy of the game that totally exists, but I noticed a lot of slowdown in my playthrough, but from what I saw, it looks like it runs fine on original Game Boy. Also, this game looks pretty zoomed in compared to other Mario games. This makes it hard to see what's below you sometimes, causing you to get hit if an enemy or a hazard is there. It's like if your vision was in a fixed position at all times. When you die, all your coins collected up to that point each return to their respective zone. When it really annoyed me was when I got another game over at the final level, causing me to fight all the bosses all over again. On the upside, you only have to play the levels that contain the bosses in them, which is a good thing because the game will become more repetitive and tedious than Mario 2. I still like Mario 2, it's a good game. Speaking of the final level, it's pretty damn good, having tough but fair platforming that tests all the skills you learnt throughout the game. The hardest part for me was the moving platforms on the second floor, especially those with precise movements like this platform here. While the 5 mini bosses are the easiest thing in the world, I only got hit by them once. After all that, you get to fight Wario. Also, it's his debut. His reasoning was only because he was jealous of Mario when he was younger and wanted all the respect he missed out on. Right off the bat, it probably makes him the best boss in the series so far, instead of being evil just because of it. Yeah, the game doesn't really explain that, so I only got this information from external sources. Now, as for the fight itself, it has 3 phases. Phase 1 was the hardest for me, as you had to jump on Wario's head 3 times as he tried to stun you to make you open for an attack, or hit you with a lamp. It was difficult, but every time I died, I always felt that it was my fault for not avoiding his attacks properly, which is a good thing to get out of a boss fight. Phase 2. Now it's Wario's turn to use the bunny power up on you, which is really cool. There's something satisfying about having a boss use a power up you have to make it a more balanced fight, and same can be said for Phase 3 where Wario uses the fire flower. Preceding Phase 2, you can use the bunny power up as well, which makes the boss much easier, which is kinda disappointing, but what can you do? Especially if you can keep it up to Phase 3. Just don't pick up the mushroom because this game has a stupid mechanic where if you pick up a mushroom whilst already having a power up, you end up powering down. Anyway, Wario is defeated and Mario restores the castle back to the way it was, and the game ends. I'll be honest, this was a great game. In fact, it might be one of the most underrated entries in the Super Mario series. This game seems to be inspired by the classic Super Mario World. Super Mario Land 2 has significantly improved over its predecessor. It contains a more interesting villain, a game that exceeds an hour in length, if only by a small amount, more creative boss fights, and better controls that accompany the design of the levels. It's not the best Mario game at this point, thanks to its zoomed-in camera, but I really appreciate the massive step forward in quality from the first Mario Land game. You know what? I'll just use a clip for old time's sake.
Super Students, my success.